Welcome to my channel, Silent Stories. Today's story is one that will warm your heart, move your soul, and remind you that kindness can come from the most unexpected places. So sit back, open your heart, and let this story unfold. The city was still asleep under a blanket of silver snow. The streetlights flickered faintly, painting the frozen sidewalks in pale orange. Steam rose from manhole covers, and the sound of distant cars hummed like a lullaby. Inside a tall glass building downtown, Ethan Clark sat at his office desk, staring blankly at the skyline. He was a CEO, young, successful, admired. To everyone around him, Ethan had it all: wealth, fame, respect. But behind the crisp suits and the calm voice was a man learning how to raise a little girl alone. His wife, Anna, had passed away 2 years ago after a long illness. Since then, his world had shrunk down to two things: his company and his daughter, Lily. Lily was 6, small, curious, with curls that bounced when she laughed. She was the only light that kept Ethan from collapsing into the darkness that often waited for him after the office lights went out. That morning, a snowstorm had turned the city into a sheet of white. Schools were closed, but Ethan had no choice. He had a board meeting that could decide the future of his company. He bundled Lily into her pink coat and brought her along. "Daddy, will there be pancakes after the meeting?" she asked, her voice soft as she rubbed her sleepy eyes. Ethan smiled. "If you behave like a princess, I'll get you extra syrup." She grinned, and that grin, that small, innocent beam, was worth more than all the contracts he'd ever signed. Hours later, the meeting ended. Numbers were discussed, strategies argued, but Ethan's mind kept drifting toward Lily sitting quietly in his office, drawing pictures with crayons. When the meeting was finally over, the snow outside had thickened. It was nearly evening. Ethan took Lily's tiny hand and stepped out into the biting wind. The world was silent, just the crunch of boots and the whisper of snow falling. "Let's get those pancakes," Ethan said, leading her toward a cafe across the street. But before they could cross, Lily stopped. Her small hand tightened around his fingers. "Daddy," she said, her voice trembling. "Look." Ethan followed her gaze. Across the street, huddled in the corner of a closed flower shop, was a woman. She was wrapped in a thin blanket, her hair matted with frost. Beside her was a bundle of cloth, small, still, and covered in snow. Lily's breath caught. "Daddy, her baby is freezing." Ethan froze. The wind cut through his coat, but it wasn't the cold that made him shiver. It was the sight before him. The woman's lips were blue. She rocked the bundle weakly, whispering something too soft to hear. Ethan looked around. People passed by, coats pulled tight, eyes down, pretending not to see. He'd been one of them once, the kind who said someone else will help. But not tonight. "Stay here, sweetheart," he said, and ran across the street. The woman barely lifted her head when he crouched down. "Ma'am," he said gently, "you need help. Please let me call someone." She shook her head, her eyes glassy. "No hospitals," she murmured. "They'll take my baby away." Ethan frowned. "Your baby needs warmth. He'll die out here." A weak cry came from the bundle, so faint it barely reached above the wind. Ethan took off his scarf and wrapped it around the baby, then shrugged off his coat and draped it over both of them. Behind him, Lily ran up and knelt beside him. "Daddy, can she come with us? Please?" Ethan looked at his daughter, her eyes wide, her lips trembling, then at the woman again. Something in him broke. "Come on," he said softly. "Let's get you both somewhere warm." 10 minutes later, they were inside the cafe. The warmth hit like sunlight after a storm. The woman, her name she said was Maya, sat trembling near the heater while Ethan ordered soup and tea. Lily sat beside her, holding the baby. The little one had stopped crying, his cheeks now pink instead of blue. "What's his name?" Lily asked softly. "Eli," Maya whispered. "He's 2 months old." Lily smiled. "Hi, Eli. I'm Lily." Ethan watched them from the counter. His daughter, so small, cradling that fragile life like it was the most precious thing in the world. And maybe it was. When the food came, Maya hesitated before eating. I don't have any money, she said. Ethan shook his head. Don't worry about that. Just eat. Tears filled her eyes as she lifted the spoon. Later, when the baby was asleep and the snow outside began to calm, Maya told her story. She had been working at a diner until she got pregnant. The father left before Eli was born. Then the rent rose and she lost her job. She tried shelters, but they were full. She'd been on the street for 3 nights. I was going to walk to the train station, she whispered. Maybe find somewhere south, but it was too cold. I didn't think we'd make it. Ethan looked down. The steam from his coffee blurred his vision. He'd spent thousands on meetings that meant nothing. Yet here sat a woman who had nothing but still held her baby close, refusing to give up. Lily touched Maya's arm. You can come home with us, she said simply. Ethan looked up in surprise. Lily. But Maya smiled faintly. That's very kind, sweetheart, but I can't trouble you. You won't, Lily said firmly. Mommy used to say everyone deserves a warm bed. Ethan's throat tightened. Mommy used to say. He looked at his daughter, then at Maya, and finally sighed. She's right. Come on, let's go home. The drive was quiet. The baby slept in Lily's arms, wrapped in Ethan's coat. Snowflakes drifted across the windshield like tiny ghosts. When they reached his house, a large modern place that suddenly felt too empty, Maya stared in disbelief. You live here? She whispered. Ethan nodded. For now, it's yours too. At least until you're back on your feet. Inside, the warmth embraced them. Lily took Maya's hand and led her upstairs to the guest room. She helped her set Eli in a crib Ethan hadn't used in years, the one that once held Lily when Anna was alive. Later that night, when the house had gone still, Ethan stood at the door of that room. Maya sat beside the crib, humming softly. Thank you, she whispered when she saw him. You didn't have to. Ethan smiled faintly. No one should freeze on my doorstep. But inside, he knew it was more than that. Something about her, about the way she looked at her child, reminded him of Anna, of the strength he'd forgotten people could have. Days turned into weeks. Maya stayed. She helped around the house, cooked meals, and watched Lily when Ethan had to work. Slowly, the quiet halls began to fill again, with laughter, with the sound of baby giggles, with warmth. Lily adored Eli. She would sit beside him for hours, showing him her toys or singing lullabies. He's my baby brother, she told her dad once. We just didn't find him yet before. Ethan smiled but said nothing. Deep inside, he began to feel something shift. The cold that had gripped his heart since Anna's death began to thaw. One evening, as they decorated a small Christmas tree together, Ethan caught Maya watching him. What? He asked, half smiling. She shook her head. I never thought people like you were real. I've been invisible for so long. He looked at her, really looked, and saw the strength in her eyes, the quiet grace that poverty couldn't erase. You're not invisible anymore, he said softly. But not everything stayed peaceful. One morning, Ethan got a call from the board. A tabloid had found out he was housing a homeless woman. Rumors spread about his judgment, his motives. Ethan, his partner warned, this could ruin your reputation. Ethan hung up without replying. That evening, he came home to find Maya packing her things. I can't let you lose everything because of me, she said, tears in her eyes. You've already done more than anyone ever has. Ethan shook his head. You're not going anywhere. Maya wiped her eyes. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, he said. Let them talk. I don't care what the world thinks. I care about what's right. Lily appeared at the door, holding Eli. Daddy, are you fighting? Ethan knelt down. No, sweetheart. We're just making sure everyone stays together. Lily nodded, smiling. Good, 'cause Eli and I already decided this is home. Maya laughed through her tears, a sound that filled the room like sunlight. Weeks later, Ethan made a decision. He called a press conference, but instead of denying the rumors, he spoke the truth. Yes, he said before the cameras, I took in a homeless mother and her child. Because no one else did. Because sometimes leadership isn't about profit, it's about compassion. The room went silent. Reporters shifted uncomfortably. Kindness, Ethan continued, is not a weakness. It's the strongest thing we can offer. That clip went viral. Overnight, donations flooded in for homeless shelters. People wrote letters, sharing their own acts of kindness inspired by his story. And when Ethan returned home that evening, Lily ran to him with her usual bright smile. "Daddy," she said, "Mommy would be proud of you." He knelt, tears stinging his eyes. "I hope so, sweetheart." Behind her, Maya stood quietly, holding Eli, no longer the fragile woman from that snowy night, but someone reborn. Months later, spring returned. The snow melted, the garden bloomed, and laughter echoed through the house again. Maya found a job at a nearby school. Ethan's company thrived, but more importantly, his home, his heart, was alive again. One afternoon, Lily ran through the garden with Eli toddling behind her. Ethan and Maya sat on the porch, watching. "She really loves him," Ethan said with a smile. Maya nodded. "He loves her too. You gave him a chance to live, Ethan. I'll never forget that." Ethan looked at her, at the light in her eyes, and said quietly, "You gave me a reason to live again." The wind carried the sound of children's laughter across the yard, wrapping around them like a promise. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Ethan walked outside. The stars glittered above, the same stars Anna used to wish upon. He closed his eyes. "I did it, love," he whispered. "We're okay now." Behind him, Maya appeared at the doorway, her voice soft. "Come inside. It's cold," he turned, smiling. "Yeah, it's cold out here, but inside it was warm." If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change someone's whole world. And remember, every silent story deserves to be heard.